One of the opportunities you have, the private wealth offices operate very independently. That's very different than investment banking. That's a great opportunity for you because you can create your own internship, right? You can create your own internship. You had mentioned to me when we were chatting right before we started recording, around how you talked to someone who hired their son or their daughter to be an intern, and that's a perfect example. Like they just created an internship. But why? Okay, yes, there was a child involved, their own child involved. But what does that really mean? What that means is that hire was a low risk hire, right? They knew that person. They knew them really, really well. They weren't worried about them running, and if they did a different career, that's fine because they were making an investment in them anyway. So that's just another way to look at it. That's why that happens very frequently, because it is a low risk situation for the person making the decision and making the emotional, financial, and professional investment in another person. And so you have a great opportunity here to build relationships with people in these suburban offices, if that's your target, and create your own internship. Make sure you're asking them, hey, did you guys have any interns last summer? And they'll probably be like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I remember, yeah, there might have been one person. Like, that's what you want to hear, because that's an opportunity. Then you want to follow up and ask them things like, what are some typical tasks that a first year analyst is going to help you with? And what you're trying to do is when you ask that, they're going to start telling you specific tasks that they get help with. And then you want to provide them examples of when you have done similar tasks, whether it's in school, in a different internship, or in your extracurriculars, or somewhere along in your line. And what you're doing, again, is you're lowering the risk, because they're going to picture, oh, Livy, oh, yeah, well, that entry level person that I worked with last year did A, B, and C. Well, I know Livy can do that. I'm not worried about it. Bang, low risk. Now you've got the internship, and it can happen just like that. Another thing to keep in mind is you're hiring in that when you're recruiting for that smaller group and maybe making your own internship, as opposed to a very rigid process where they're hiring 50 people. That's going to be more. It's going to tend to be more just in time, right? Meaning you'll tend to get the offer maybe a month before you start, maybe 2 months or 3 months. 6 months is probably a little far, but maybe. But you're more likely to be less than 6 months. Not guaranteed, and you're going to see a lot of differences across firms in this, but you're also going to see a lot of differences across specific offices, right, within one firm. So.